In this video, I'm going to show you a simple 4-note method so you'll always know exactly which notes to use to solo over any chord. Now, you might hear me say 4-note shape and think, well, this is just some beginner hack. But this is actually a symmetry secret that professional players use to navigate the neck while most guitarists are just guessing. Most guitarists are looked down upon by other instrumentalists. Why? Because so many guitarists just want to know what key a song's in, and they don't think they have to pay attention to the actual chord changes. And that's a lazy, bogus approach. If you ignore the chords, you aren't playing music, you're just making noise in a specific key. Today, I'm giving you a master tempo. It's a 4-note shape that repeats every 2 strings all the way across and up and down the fretboard. And I promise this will change the way you see the fretboard forever. So, sounds pretty cool, right? Let's dive in. I've seen the videos, you've probably seen them too. You know, the gimmicky, easy way to solo over any chord crowd. Well, I watched one just the other day that showed a basic major pentatonic pattern and then a basic pattern that works over one kind of minor chord. So this guy's any chord claim stopped at major and minor, and that's total nonsense. If you're learning like this is why you get stuck, and it's why your solos fall apart when the chord changes start to really move. Let me show you what I mean in some real-life examples. A couple of songs that always seem to come up at blues jam sessions. But the chord changes in these songs are just complicated enough to be really revealing if you don't know what you're doing. The first one, the classic song Dock of the Bay. If we play Dock of the Bay in G, the first chord is G major. G major pentatonic sounds fine here. But the next chord is B7. And this poses a problem if we try to use that G major pentatonic pattern, because the G major pentatonic has the notes D, E, G, A, and B. But B7 has the notes B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. So D and D sharp, well, they clash big time. So that doesn't work. How about moving the pattern up to the 7th position? So now we're in B pentatonic. That would give us the notes F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, and D sharp. Remember, our chord has the notes B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. So it takes care of the D sharp problem, but there's another big issue. And the most important notes of a dominant 7 chord are the 3rd, which for B7 is D sharp. We took care of that one, but also the flat 7, or A. And B major pentatonic has a G sharp, or the major 6th. And it's a great sounding note, but it sounds too sweet. And if we linger on it, it's gonna clash big time with the A or the flat 7. So it's very obvious that we could use that note as a passing note and it would work, but we can't just use that major pentatonic. We need to change those notes from our simple major and minor pentatonic patterns if we want to nail the chord changes. And this is just a simple example. We're not even talking about diminished, half diminished, or altered dominant chords yet. It doesn't take into account that some of the chord changes that we play over are modal. So a minor chord is not always just a simple minor chord. That's what really burns me up about these one pattern that works over any chord videos. Now here's what you need to learn. There is one pattern that works over any type of chord. It's 4 notes, 2 each on 2 adjacent strings, and it repeats all the way across and up and down the fretboard, but there's one caveat. We always stay with our 4-note, 2 notes a string pattern, but the difference is we have to, and we will, change just 1 note at a time to make our pattern work over the different types of chords. So here's the secret. Over the first chord, G major, we're going to use this shape. It's the notes F sharp, G, B, and D. And that's a G major 7th arpeggio. We're starting on F sharp of the 7th, so we call that a 3rd inversion. And an important rule to memorize, the major 7 interval, it's always 1 fret below the root. Doesn't matter which key you're in. If it's a G, the major 7's F sharp. If it's a B, the major 7 is A sharp. And here's where this little shape is so awesome. As the chords change, we keep the 4-note, 2-note per string pattern, but we make one small surgical shift. For that B7, we're going to need a dominant 7th shape. And look at this, we've got a B root at fret 7 of the low E, and instead of starting on the major 7 note, we're going to use A, or the flat 7 at the 5th fret. And then we've got the 3rd and the 5th, D sharp and F sharp on the A string. So the only thing that changed in our shape is that we started on the flat 7 and it's 2 frets below the root, instead of starting on the major 7, which was 1 fret below the root. It hits the B, the D sharp, the F sharp, and that crucial flat 7 A note that our little pentatonic pattern that works over everything teachers leave out. So remember, over B7, that little pentatonic pattern gives us a sweet sounding G sharp that fights the song, and my shape is going to give you an A, the grit, the soul, and the actual DNA of the chord. And here's where it gets really powerful. When the song goes to the next chord, C major, we don't need to learn a new scale. We just move up to the 8th position where there's a C note on the low E, and we shift that 1 note back to the major 7th shape. Okay, and that's cool, but let's say we want to move across the neck or play up in a higher register. Well, watch this. I'm going to play the G major 7 shape on the E and A strings. Now I'm going to move it up to the D and G strings. So I just jump over to the F sharp on the D string. Here's our shape again. Now we jump over to the B and high E strings. We've got an F sharp at the 7th fret of the B string, and here's our shape. Guess what? It's the exact same movement. My hands didn't have to change, my brain didn't have to change. I'm just duplicating the DNA across the neck. Now you might be saying, okay, Charlie, that's major 7, dominant 7, but there are more chords than that, and you'd be right. But check this out. We already saw how we dropped that major 7th interval down 1 fret to get a dominant 7. What about a minor 7? Well, the difference between a dominant 7 and a minor 7 chord is the 3rd interval. In the minor 7th, we need to play a minor 3rd, so now this becomes our 4-note shape. Here's major 7, here's dominant 7, here's minor 7, with that flat 3rd. Sometimes we might play a chord called a minor 7 flat 5. To get that chord from a minor 7, all we need to do is drop the 5th down or flatten it 1 fret. How about that? And lastly, sometimes we play over a chord called a diminished 7. And to turn the minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished into a fully diminished, we need to drop that flat 7 down 1 more fret. And so now it's 3 frets or a minor 3rd below the root. So it's a double flat 7. And there's that diminished sound. So now we've got this one shape that we alter 1 note at a time to get the 5 different kinds of 7th arpeggios. I bet you never guessed it would be that easy to play such cool stuff. I'm going to play over the chord changes to Dock of the Bay. And what I'm going to do is the first couple of times through, I'm just going to play minor pentatonic over everything. Then I'm going to switch it up. The next couple of times through, I'm going to play some bluesy licks, but I'm also going to play the 7th arpeggios that fit that B7 chord and the A7 chord. I think you're going to hear a major difference. So I'm sure you can hear how playing something that matches the chords is a big deal, even in a fairly simple song like Dock of the Bay. Well, let's take a look at what happens when the chord changes get a little more serious. Let's look at a classic Ray Charles blues song called Hard Times, which Eric Clapton did a famous cover of in the 1980s. And yes, it's a blues, but it's got some grown-up jazzy changes. A tune like this is where you'll get absolutely exposed if you try to fit one scale over every chord. And it's a tune like this where our new 4-note system is going to become your superpower. There's an old video from the 1980s on YouTube where Eric is playing Hard Times live on a TV show, and the great alto saxophone player David Sanborn is playing with him. Now, I'm not one of those chattering Clapton is overrated monkeys, and I actually love most of Eric's playing and singing. But I'm sorry, playing this tune, and especially trying to solo after a player like David Sanborn, harmonically, Eric's in way over his head. Sanborn solos first over the chords D major, F sharp 7, B minor, B augmented, A minor, and D7. Beautiful chords, and he plays something like this. He addresses every chord so nicely. As a matter of fact, if you watch the video, when he plays the lick over the F sharp 7 chord, Clapton kind of leans back and grins because he knew he heard something really cool. But then over some equally nice chord changes of G major 7, G sharp diminished, D, C, B7, B flat 7, A7, and then back to D. Well, Eric disregards the chords entirely and just plays a bunch of D minor pentatonic and a couple of D major pentatonic licks. Now, I'm going to play some licks similar to what Eric played in the live video, and I'm going to do it with no chords in the background. Have a listen. Tell me, what chords did you hear in there? All I heard was a bunch of D minor and maybe a little bit of D major. But that kind of soloing is completely blind to the chord progression. It could have been over any song with a D chord vamp. Now, listen to what happens when we use our 4-note system over those same chord changes. I'm going to play our 4-note pattern over what would be the same chord changes Eric was soloing over. I'm going to do it without the backing track because I want you to hear that when we use this pattern and we do that 1-note shift to match the chords, you can hear every single chord without a backing track. Have a listen. Even without the backing track, you hear the song moving. You hear the story. That's the difference between being a make one scale fit over everything guitar player and being a real musician. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I'm not saying you have to turn into some hardcore jazzer. Use your pentatonic boxes and blues licks for vibe and soul. But when the chord changes get a little weird, you can still easily hit the money notes using our 4-note 7th arpeggio patterns. Just make sure you always bring things home with the blues. I'm going to solo over the second half of that Hard Times progression like Eric Clapton did in the video I mentioned. And I want you to listen how I blend bluesy licks with our 4-note arpeggio patterns. Check this out. the difference? We're not abandoning the soul of the blues. We're just giving it a brain. When we use the 4-note symmetry shape as our GPS, we're not just wiggling our fingers in a box and hoping for the best. We're using the same musical DNA that horn players, keyboard players, and really great guitar players have used for decades to keep from getting lost. It's one simple template, 5 small shifts, but total freedom across the neck. Don't let the gimmick teachers tell you you're not ready for this. If you can move your fingers around 1 fret at a time, you can play changes. Now, if this video gave you any aha moments and cleared out some brain fog for you, do me a favor. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're doing things differently here. We're moving past gimmicks and we're getting into some real deal instruction. Remember, start paying attention to chord changes. Stop trying to make one scale fit over everything and start reaching your playing goals. Thanks for watching, happy guitaring, and I'll see you next week.